Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Cooks by Carrie. If you're new here, I'm Carrie, and for today's video, I'm sharing how to make this delicious pumpkin pie. This recipe comes from The Dessert Person by Claire Safik's cookbook, and it was my first time trying out a recipe from this book, and it turned out really great. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alrighty, so before I get into the ingredients for this video, two notes. Number one, if I sound a little bit different, that's because I'm just getting over a cold, so I apologize for that. And number two, if you're unfamiliar with the Dessert Person cookbook, it is a cookbook by Claire Safik's, or I don't know if I'm saying her last name right. Safik, I don't know, whatever. But it is a cookbook that's more challenging, and the recipes are sometimes more difficult. So I was interested to try out a recipe from this book, this one being my first, and see how difficult it was. And there are ratings on each of them, and this one was the caramelized honey pumpkin pie. It has a difficulty rating of 3, but I think that, which is moderate, and I think that any baker could make this recipe. It wasn't too difficult. So what you're going to need for this recipe is unsalted butter, honey, heavy cream, eggs, dark brown sugar, pumpkin puree, cinnamon, ground ginger, vanilla extract, salt, ground allspice, ground nutmeg, ground cloves. And you're also going to need a pre-baked 9-inch pie crust. And the recipe does suggest that you use the one that is her recipes, because there is one in the book. But it was more of a complicated one, and I didn't have that much time. And since I really love my pie recipe crust that I always use, I just went ahead and used that one. I will link the video in the description down below so you can go watch the video on that. But these are all the ingredients, and it was not too much of a challenging one. You probably have most of the stuff at home because it's mostly spices, but there will be some things that you'll probably have to go to the store and get. Alrighty, so in this shot you can see my pre-baked crust, which is on the side. My sides did kind of shrink in, which I was a little upset about, but it all turned out fine in the end, so it's all good. And then you may have noticed that my oven was preheated to 325 degrees, and you want to make sure that your oven rack is in the center. Also make sure to leave your crust on a baking sheet. And then you're going to take your butter and melt it into the pan. And you're going to melt it until it browns, and you're going to stir constantly. This is going to be at a medium-low heat, and you really need to watch it very carefully. Now, it is going to be brown butter. So if you've never made it, basically what happens is, as you cook the butter, for me, this only took about 5 minutes, it is going to get very dark in color, and you'll notice some specks at the bottom, and you might think they're burnt, but that's what's supposed to happen. Some like dark brown, or maybe even, you don't want them super black, but like they can be like light black specks on the bottom, and that's completely fine. And so yeah, this is going to take 5 to 7 minutes, but you want it to get browned. Alrighty, so now that I have my brown butter, as you can see, you want to turn off the heat and then immediately add in all of your honey. And you'll see it'll start to bubble up like that, even though the heat is not on. What you want to do is mix it until it's completely combined. And then you are going to return the heat on the saucepan, now to a medium heat, and bring this to a boil. Now, the boil for me was way quicker than 2 minutes. It was maybe about 1 minute, but just make sure that it's around 2 minutes. So yeah, and when you do this, you're going to notice that there's like a savory, nutty smell, and this is caused by the butter browning, and then, you mix in the honey. This is caramelizing it. This is what makes the caramelized honey pumpkin pie the beginning part. So yeah, again, in this part, you need to stir it constantly. Okay, so now is the part where we're going to bring it to a boil, which is what I just described. So when it boils, you are going to notice that it's going to get pretty boiling pretty quickly, and that it's going to get really, really foamy. So you want to keep stirring because you don't want it to fill out of the pan, and you want to keep it all controlled in there. So just keep mixing it for about 2 minutes, like I said previously. Also, during this part, I was like, am I doing this right? Because I wasn't sure if the mixture was supposed to be super thick or what it was supposed to look like, but in the end, the pie turned out delicious. So if yours looks like mine, I'm sure you're good. Okay, so at this point, I've turned off the heat and I'm adding in the cream a little bit at a time and mixing. So this is the heavy cream, and you just want to incorporate it all and make sure everything is all smooth and it's all like one uniform mixture. It's not kind of separated. And at this point, I was also like, is it supposed to be super thick, or like I was a little bit like, okay, am I doing it right? But I'm sure that I was, because it turned out good in the end, like I said with the last step. And also, I would say this recipe wasn't that difficult. Is it more challenging than your typical pumpkin pie? Yes, but it's really not that hard. So if you've been baking for a little while, I'm sure you could do this. And even if you're a new baker, you could attempt this too, and I'm sure you'd get a successful pie out of it. So yeah, just give it a mix and then leave it like that. And this is what it looked like. And it smelled really good in my kitchen. It smelled like warm honey. And then I decided to go in with a whisk just to make sure that everything was fully incorporated. Alrighty, before I continue with this video, please subscribe, hit that thumbs up, comment down below what you'd like to see next, and share this video with a friend. I have a goal of 100 subscribers, and I'm about the third of the way there, so if you could do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. Alrighty, let's continue with this video. Okay, so now we're going to set aside that honey mixture and move on to incorporate the rest of the ingredients. So in a large bowl, you're going to combine your eggs with your brown sugar, and you don't need any type of mixer for this process. I just used the exact same whisk that I had used for the honey mixture. So I'm just whisking up the eggs, making sure they're one combined thing, and then going ahead and adding in the brown sugar. And at first, it was a little hard to mix just because I wanted to make sure I incorporated all of the clumps, but it ended up being good in the end. And also, if your brown sugar isn't is very hard and like it's very clumpy, I'm pretty sure something you can do is, I'm gonna double check this, but I think you can microwave the brown sugar with a wet paper towel on top for like one, like really short amount of time, and it gets softer. So you might want to try that if you have some brown sugar that's kind of hard. I just wanted to confirm that yes, you can put the rock hard sugar in a microwave safe bowl, put a moist paper towel on top, microwave it for 20 seconds, and that should do the trick. Which is also something that I learned a little bit ago, and I feel like that's such a helpful tip because you don't want to throw away your brown sugar just because it's hard, and it makes it like much easier to use, like just like it was brand new. Now it's time to add the rest of the ingredients to the egg mixture. This means all the spices, the salt, and the canned pumpkin. Few notes on the recipe here. Number one, for the canned pumpkin, the best one to use is going to be Libby's. Most grocery stores should have that one. And apparently the recipe says it's lower in moisture and produces a perfect, smooth, flavorful pie. And I really like Libby's. It's recommended in a lot of recipes, I'm pretty sure. But make sure to get unsweetened pumpkin puree, because Libby's also makes a pumpkin pie filling, but you don't want that one. You just want the pure unsweetened pumpkin. Also, for some of the spices, I ran out of ground ginger, so I used a little bit of fresh minced ginger. Mine was like frozen in a cube, and then I just zested it and added it in, and it worked out perfectly fine. So if for some reason you're in that situation, you can do what I did. Another note, it recommends ground nutmeg, like fresh, but I didn't have fresh, so I just used regular dried, and the pie turned out delicious. So those are just a few notes. And yeah, I just started by mixing it, and I went a little bit slowly at first just to make sure, because there's a lot of spices. You don't want things going like out of the bowl or anything like that. And also, after I had mixed it, I thought that it was kind of thinner than I expected, which I thought was kind of interesting because I expected the filling to be kind of thick. But in the end, the filling is actually pretty thin, which is something to note. But as you know, you bake it and then it cools, it thickens up. And the last step to this mixture is to add in our honey mixture. So I'm going to go ahead and pour it all in, and I just mix it up. It kind of separated at the top, but it's all going to be one mixture, so it's okay. And then it's a little hard to see here, sorry, but I go ahead and add it in slowly and then just mix it in the center first because I don't want to spill, and I am going kind of fast with my whisk, and you want to do this constantly. Now, one thing that the recipe says is to mix until the filling is completely homogeneous. Homogeneous? I think it. Homogeneous. I can't believe I just messed it up. Sorry about that. Homogeneous. But basically, what this means is you want everything to be super, super well incorporated. And so just give it a really good mix, even after you think that it's fully mixed, just to make sure that this is perfectly complete. Also, at the end, I do go ahead and scrape down the sides of the bowl just to make sure that everything has been incorporated. And here is my pie crust that was pre-baked, which is called, I think it's called par baked. And if you want a video on that, I can show you, but it basically just means baking it beforehand. You can probably find something easy online to show you that, or if you're using a store-bought crust, that also works. So as you can see, when I poured it in, I actually had some leftover mixture, but you don't want to add it in because it's worse if the pie is going to spill than if you had some leftovers. So I know the leftover is annoying, like I don't know what I'm going to do with mine, but it's better to just fill it up just to the top and not overfill. And now it's time to pop this thing in the oven. So the tray is not hot, but my pan was, so just be careful if this is your case too. And you're just going to pop it in. It's at 325, and you're going to cook this for 45 to 60 minutes. So for me, mine was closer to 65 minutes, I believe. And then what you do, you turn off the oven and you allow it to completely cool, because sometimes what happens with pumpkin pies is they'll crack at the top, similar to like sometimes what happens with a cheesecake. And to prevent that, I guess there's this trick is that you just leave it in the oven. And what I ended up doing is, since I made this at night, I left the pie in the oven just completely overnight. I didn't cover it or anything because, you know, it was in the oven. And then I checked on it and pulled out in the morning, and it was like beautiful. I've made pumpkin pies in the past and they have cracked a little bit, but this one only had a teeny tiny crack on the side. So I highly, highly recommend doing this. But just note that if you do this, just make sure that if you're going to use your oven in the morning, you write a note for whoever lives in your house and say like, hey, don't heat the oven up, because I don't think anything too bad will happen if you heat the pumpkin pie, but I just don't really think it's that good of an idea. And here was the pie in the morning. I was really, really happy with how it was looking, and I was so excited to see like how thick it was and how delicious it was going to taste. So to start off, I used a serrated cutter, but it didn't really work very well for me, so I went in with a knife. And then a trick for cutting pies or cakes, or really anything, is to cut 2 slices and then remove one. I don't know, just something makes it a little bit easier. And yeah, I was really, really proud with how it turned out, and it tasted so delicious. Seriously, one of the best pumpkin pies I've ever had. And I was really proud that even though the recipe was a little bit more difficult, that I was able to complete it. So for any of my future videos, if you want anything more related to dessert person or any other recipes in it, please let me know, because I probably will make some more videos on trying some recipes, but I was really excited to try something out. And also look out for my Foodie Friday video, which is going to be a cinnamon whipped cream that goes perfect with this pie. And also, this crust was a little bit different at the top. If you want to know how I did that, basically, you just pinch in the sides to get this nice kind of like bumpy looking texture. But yeah, there it was. So thick, so delicious, and just a wonderful treat for fall. Alrighty, that's it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't already, please follow me on Instagram at Cooks by Carrie. I post lots of fun photos of the food I cook. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe, comment down below what you'd like to see next. Hit that notification bell to get notified when I post a new video. and I'll see you on Friday. Bye, guys.